From our studio in Georgetown, this is the TV Delmarva Channel 14 News at 4.
Good day, Delmarva. Reporter Rob Petrie here for TV Delmarva Channel 14 News. Straight ahead, a Lewes woman has died following a serious crash that injured several people near Frederica. A Dover man was arrested on his third DUI charge, and Governor Carney and other elected officials held a Memorial Day celebration to honor our nation's servicemen and women. These stories and more coming up, but weather first with Hunter Alton.
Hello and good Tuesday afternoon, Delmarva. I hope you're trying to stay cool out there because it's quite warm out there, especially for our inland locations. Now, if you happen to be along the beaches, it is a couple degrees cooler, but still very, very warm out there for the most part. Taking a live look outside of TV Delmarva Studios here in Georgetown. We got the sunshine. There's a couple of puffy cumulus clouds out there, but not very many of it. But definitely that temperature is an understatement, at least here in Georgetown. Currently 93 degrees here in Georgetown. Take a look at satellite and radar. We still have an area of high pressure dominating our weather pattern over the next couple of days, but areas right along the Appalachian Mountains are starting to see a couple of pop-up thunderstorms in that area. But here on Delmarva, we've been seeing pretty much cloudless skies for the most part. Now we will see a little bit of clouds move in tonight and maybe the smallest, and I mean the smallest chance of an isolated shower, but over the next few days, especially tomorrow and especially Thursday, where we have a lot better chance of seeing some pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon hours. Now let's have a look at those conditions elsewhere on Delmarva this afternoon. We have widespread 90s across the inland locations on Delmarva. Currently 92 right now in Salisbury, 90 degrees for Pocomoke City, and where everybody else wants to be right now, right there in Ocean City, only 78 degrees with that onshore breeze. Further west, 91 in Easton, 92 in Centerville, and all the way up north is even warmer, 94 for Wilmington, and currently 93 degrees in Newark. Take a look at dew points. The inland locations, the dew points are definitely low. We're still a tad bit on the humid side, but not too bad. 64 and 65 for Georgetown and Dover, but the closer you get towards the Atlantic coast, your humidity values start going up, and currently have a dew point 73 in Pocomoke City and 69 for Ocean City. You factor in a little bit of that humidity and those temperatures, we're looking at some real feel indexes in the mid-90s for the most part. Not an overly humid air mass in place right now, but that'll be a different story once we get in towards tomorrow. Take a look at the winds across the region, sustained generally from the north and northwest, anywhere between about 5 and 10 miles per hour, but we have been seeing some wind gusts get near 15, currently gusting to 13 miles per hour here in Georgetown, 15 for Dover, 16 for Centerville, 19 in Newark, and gusting to 16 miles per hour in Wilmington. Now we do have the chance for some isolated thunderstorms going into tomorrow and a greater chance going into Thursday, where we could be looking at some severe weather as well, but a wonderful weekend is in store ahead. I'll have all those details here in just a little bit.
A Lewes woman has died following a serious crash that injured several people near Frederica. According to Delaware State Police, the crash occurred around 6 p.m. Sunday as a 2008 Cadillac DTS was traveling westbound on Bowers Beach Road just east of Skeeter Neck Road. At the same time, the driver of a Cadillac crossed the double yellow line and tried to pass several vehicles that were also traveling westbound. As the Cadillac approached a white 2022 Volkswagen, police say both drivers swerved into the eastbound shoulder of that road, resulting in a head-on collision. The driver of the Cadillac, 26-year-old Dylan Satterfield of Frederica, was properly restrained at the time of the crash. He was flown via helicopter to an area hospital where he remains in critical condition. Now, both the driver of the Volkswagen, a 69-year-old man, and a passenger, a 69-year-old woman, both from Lewes, were properly properly restrained at the time of the crash. The driver was transported via ambulance to an area hospital where he remains in critical condition. The passenger, however, was also transported via ambulance to an area hospital for serious injuries where she later died. Bowers Beach Road was closed for about 4 hours while the crash was investigated and later cleared. Several charges are pending for Satterfield, according to police, who they say will be charged once he is released from the hospital. Well, a Dover man has been charged with his third DUI offense. 39-year-old Jonathan Cannon was arrested and charged with a third offense DUI on Sunday after police say officers stopped him in the area of Kings Highway and Park Drive around 2:23 in the morning for a traffic violation. Now, during the traffic stop, officers reportedly detected signs of intoxication and performed field sobriety tests that indicated he was driving drunk. Cannon was arrested without incident and released on a $2,500 unsecured bond. Well, in honor of Memorial Day and the sacrifices our brave men and servicewomen make every single day, a celebration was held by Governor Carney and other elected officials Monday. The governor spoke alongside U.S. Senators Tom Carper and Chris Coons, who honored the memories of those who laid it all on the line to protect and serve our country.
We're here today to remember and honor the dead, but it's also a time to reflect on the extraordinary way in which each of these men and women lived their lives. Each story is different, of course. There's Lieutenant Commander James Connell, a graduate of Salesianum, killed in a Vietnamese POW camp in 1971, but not before he resisted and outsmarted his captors and passed on important information and intelligence to other POWs who were eventually released to help our efforts there. There's Senior Airman Elizabeth Lonke, a graduate of Padua Academy, killed in Iraq in 2007, but not before she disarmed more than 20 explosive devices during her deployment. She wrote in her diary before she died, "If I could only save one more life, it would be worth it." There's Second Lieutenant George McCullen Johnson, a textile worker at DuPont's nylon factory in Seaford, who joined the Delaware National Guard at age 15. 10 years later, during World War II, he died as part of a bomb squadron when his aircraft crashed in the Pacific. Brigadier General Thomas Alfred Smith, an Irish immigrant to Wilmington, was killed on horseback in Virginia in 1865, on the same day that the Confederate Army surrendered. He was the last general officer killed on the Union side, and his body was sent back to the Brandywine Cemetery in Wilmington to be buried. And then there's Sussex Tech's Private First Class Joey Marquez, who died at age 19 just 1 month ago, after following in the proud military footsteps of his grandfather, a master sergeant in the Army. There are thousands of these stories through the history of our country and our state. And the thread running through all of the stories is that each individual made a choice. In more recent times, they made a choice to serve in the first place. They all made a choice to serve honorably. Some made the deliberate choice to sacrifice their lives for someone else's. They all answered the call to serve. And through that action, they gave their lives a lasting meaning, a meaning that's an example for all of us.
Coming up, Governor John Carney has announced Delaware's first ever Governor's Summer Fellowship Program for Delaware High School students. More details on the way. Don't go away. Well, Governor John Carney has announced Delaware's first ever Governor's Summer Fellowship Program for Delaware High School students. The Governor's Summer Fellowship Program provides paid camp counselor opportunities for Delaware High School seniors and juniors. Along with real-world experience, fellows will receive paid work opportunities at community-based summer camps in each county here in Delaware and have the ability to network with state leaders and elected officials. All who participate will will gain real-world experience in education, community, and state government. Students who are interested can apply today at de.gov/summerfellow. Well, it's looking like we're in store for passing clouds and mild conditions tonight as we get a preview of your pinpoint weather forecast with Hunter Alton.
Another mild night is in store this evening with above average temperatures and a little bit of clouds on the increase as well. Tomorrow will feel a bit more humid with a slight chance of a pop-up isolated thunderstorm, but a bigger thunderstorm threat is on tap for Thursday, but we do have another beautiful weekend on the way. Now don't go anywhere because when we come back, I'll let you know what to expect from these thunderstorms in the next couple of days here on TV Delmarva, Channel 14 News. Alrighty, Delmarva, let's get right into the pinpoint forecast for the overnight hours into the day on Wednesday. We're still going to be looking at some fairly mild conditions in the overnight hours, but we will be increasing the clouds just a little bit with some partly cloudy skies. Overnight lows of 72 to 75 degrees with some light winds from the south at about 5 miles per hour. Take a look at Futurecast, rest of the overnight hours into the day on Wednesday. This is 8 o'clock this evening. We still got plenty of mostly clear skies for the most part, but we're starting to notice a little bit of cloud cover beginning to move in from the northwest. But take a look at these temperatures right around sunset, still in the mid and upper 80s. But going into the heart of the overnight hours, now Futurecast has been trying to pop up a few showers throughout the area. I think it's going to be relatively dry for the most part, but there still might be the very slightest chance that you might see a passing shower throughout the overnight hours with temperatures still into the mid 70s. Waking up tomorrow morning though, we're going to be looking at a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but 8 o'clock, we're already at 80 degrees across areas of Delmarva, with a little bit cooler as you go further north into areas of Newark and Wilmington. But a little bit different story once we get into the afternoon hours, because just west of a sea breeze boundary, we're going to be looking at temperatures well into the 80s, into the potentially low 90s, like in areas of Salisbury and Pocomoke City. But closer towards the coast on the east side of that sea breeze, temperatures only about 70 degrees, and that's going to be the potential lifting mechanism for a little bit of some isolated thunderstorms to develop across areas of central Delmarva, especially areas west of that boundary in Easton, Centerville, stretching towards Baltimore, and even towards Lexington Park. And then by the evening hours, we'll get a little bit of a break of that precipitation, as we're going to be looking at more in the way of a mixture of clouds and sunshine, temperatures into the mid 70s. And then once we get into the heart of the overnight hours, we might have a few isolated pop-up cells, maybe a thunderstorm or an isolated shower here and there, and that's going to continue throughout much of the overnight hours, and especially going into the day on Thursday. Wednesday forecast overall, watch out for some areas of some isolated thunderstorms during the afternoon hours, and especially if you're on for the beach, make sure to keep aware of your surroundings for that lightning risk. Another very hot day as well, 87 to 90 degrees with some humidity and some light onshore winds from the northeast between 5 and 10 miles per hour. Take a look at the allergy index for Wednesday. We're right on that cusp between medium high and high conditions, 7.9 out of 12 on our scale. And your top allergens for your Wednesday is going to be from oak, grass, and mulberries. Now we're going to take a look at the beach forecast, beginning with the Atlantic. We got isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon hours, 74 degrees. Our water temperature warmed up quite a bit, now to 69 degrees. Winds from the northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and some nice small swell of about 1 to 2 feet. But definitely keep that sunblock handy before the storms arrive a little bit later, because you got a UV index right at 10 at extreme levels. Take a look at the Delaware Bay. Isolated thunderstorms as well, 74 degrees. Winds from the southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour with seas of less than 1 foot expected. And then the Chesapeake Bay. Isolated thunderstorms, definitely warmer at 80 degrees on the west side of that boundary. Winds from the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour with 1 foot seas on the Chesapeake. Now going into the overnight hours tomorrow night, we still might have a leftover isolated thunderstorm or isolated shower, but some fairly nice comfortable temperatures too. Overnight lows of 64 to 68 degrees. With winds switching back towards the southwest between 5 and 10 miles per hour. Now we do have a little bit of a different scenario going into Thursday. This is the day 3 convective outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. We have a fairly wide area of a marginal risk, but if you take over a look into the mid-Atlantic, that is a slight risk of severe weather, and I can even show you closer up. Pretty much like 90% of the shore is under a slight risk of severe weather. That's a level 2 out of 5 risk going into Thursday, except for the southern tip in Exmoor and Cape Charles, where you're looking at a marginal risk there, because some of these storms could be on the strong to severe side as well. And here's a little bit of a snapshot going into Thursday afternoon. We can see the little bit of individual cells across the area. Now, there is a cold front, but it's much further off towards the west. The reason why we do have the chance for some thunderstorms, because we have a very, very rich moisture environment for these storms to fire off, and as well as we will be dealing with a sea breeze boundary as well. Now, sea breeze boundaries, a little bit tricky. They can either give us thunderstorms or make the air mass more stable. It's always a 50-50 shot with those, and those are the ones that will get you, especially right along the coastal waters here on Delmarva. But take a look at forecasted low level lapse rates, because we do have the moisture, we do have the heat, and as well as potential for some of these storms could be looking at some heavy rainfall. No surprise that the main threat is going to be damaging winds with microbursts as well, and maybe the chance of some large hail, maybe to the size of quarters or even $half at most. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. Not really expecting anything in the way of a tornadic threat, because there's a very, very lack of low level shear that's needed for tornado development. Now, as we take a look at that extended outlook, like I mentioned, Thursday we have the chance for some scattered thunderstorms, some of which can be in the strong to severe side. Temperatures cooling down a little bit more into the mid-80s. And then going into this weekend, we got another fantastic weekend ahead as well. Temperatures cooling down a little bit below average in the upper 70s to about 80 degrees, but with plenty of sunshine, and that will be continuing even into the early portions of next week, with the next rain chance being on Tuesday.
Coming up, President Biden is considering providing federal funding to demolish the Texas elementary school and build a new one where last week's mass shooting took place. More details straight ahead. Keep it here. President Biden is considering providing federal funding to demolish Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, to build a new one. That's where last week's terrible mass shooting took place. The president visited Uvalde on Sunday, the site where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed in one of the country's worst mass shootings in a decade. While visiting, Biden suggested to a lawmaker that the federal government may provide resources to raise Robb Elementary School and possibly build a new one. The president visited a memorial just outside the school where he met with the families of victims and first responders.
Weather Classroom is sponsored by No Nonsense Office Machines, committed to providing quality products and services with over 15 years of experience here in Sussex County. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's weather lesson, we will be talking about microbursts. A microburst is a localized column of sinking air or downdraft within a thunderstorm, and is usually less than or about equal to 2.5 miles in diameter. Microbursts can cause extensive damage at the surface, and in some instances can also be life-threatening. There are 2 primary types of microbursts, one being wet microbursts and 2 dry microbursts. We're going to be talking about the most common type, which is known as wet microbursts, which are accompanied by significant precipitation and are very common during the summer months here in the United States. It all starts with the development of a thunderstorm and the water droplets and hailstones being suspended within the updraft. Now, sometimes an updraft is so strong, it keeps the large amounts of these droplets and hailstones into the upper portions of the thunderstorm. There are many factors that can lead to evaporational cooling and therefore weakening of the updraft. Once this occurs, it is no longer capable of holding the large core of rain or hail up in a thunderstorm. As a result, the core then plummets to the ground, and as it hits the ground, it spreads out in all directions. The location in which the microburst first hits the ground experiences the highest winds and the greatest damage overall. Now, wind speeds in microbursts can reach up to 100 miles per hour or even stronger, which is equivalent to an EF1 tornado. Winds this high can cause major damage to homes and other structures and level hundreds of trees in its path. It is very important that you take severe thunderstorm warnings just as serious as tornado warnings, especially for these kinds of events.
Well, that about does it for us today, Delmarva. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at TV Delmarva and on our website, tvdelmarva.com, for real-time news and weather updates. And while you're there, be sure to sign our petition calling on the major cable providers to carry TV Delmarva on their platforms so we can provide this kind of local programming to all of Delmarva. Until next time, I'm Rob Petrie reporting for TV Delmarva Channel 14 News.